From tax reform to DACA and dealing with North Korea, the Congress and the White House certainly have a long agenda these days to tackle.
And local Congressman and House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy joins us now live in studio to talk just about that, the latest developments out of Washington. Thanks for joining us today, Congressman.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, let's start with DACA, since that's what that last story we were just talking about was. What is the president doing, and what is your stance on it?
Well, what the president's saying, and he did a rightful stance, because the prior administration took an executive branch and moved DACA, which is not constitutional. The laws are created in Congress and Senate, and so what the president said, for the next 6 months I won't do anything, but you have to act. So he's pushing individuals to act. Now the right thing to do is a combination here. You need to secure the border, because if you just move forward with just maybe a dreamer's bill, which I don't think is the bill at the end of the day we move, you'll have more people entering the country illegally in the hopes of getting citizenship. I believe in the rule of law. It keeps us safe. But also in the rule of law, we do not hold you liable personally for something your parents have done. So I believe there's a place here where both people can get to, and that we can solve this problem once for all and solve our border security issue. And I think that is part of the work that the president is trying to do.
Do you think you or Paul Ryan should have been included in those conversations he had with Democrats?
Well, no. I mean, we sit and talk to the president all the time. He was just having a dinner. This was one of the issues. He needs to talk to both sides. I'll guarantee you we talk to him much more than the other side, but he is the president of the entire United States. Paul Ryan and I also put together a task force on this, taking of the 3 committees of jurisdiction, a number of members, Republican and Democrat, and the Speaker and myself will serve on that task force to work through to try to make sure our borders are secure and deal with the DACA issue.
It would seem that the safest way to get Democratic support on this is to stay with DACA and only address that. When we start talking wall, then it seems like we could get a little
Well, if you just do DACA, though, and you don't have a secure border, you're going to continue to have this problem.
So is that what you
Yeah, so I think to solve the problem overall, you need to secure the border and deal. Many of these children here have come here at a young age, know no other country. They didn't learn that they weren't citizens until after they graduated high school. And we're not going to hold them liable for something their parents have done, but at the same time, let's secure the border so we do not have this problem going into the future. I think that is the place that everyone can get to, solve this problem, and do it in a constitutional way that is correct.
And we don't need another DACA piece of legislation 20 years from now.
No, you won't need another one.
No.
All right.
Let's talk about tax reform. That's also on the plate coming up here. Where are we?
We're very close. What we wanted to do is make sure the Senate and the administration is on the same place. And really, why are we thinking about tax reform? You have the highest corporate rate in the world. Companies are being competitive around the world, but our tax rate won't allow you to bring the money back to America and invest in America. That's called repatriation, so we'll fix that as well. We want to become competitive. But the small businesses that create the most amount of new jobs have a very high rate because they're a pass-through. So we don't want to make it so complex. You'd have 7 personal rates. Why not make those just 3? Why don't you lower them, let people keep more of what they earn, and spur the economy to grow? Because on average, America usually has a 3% growth rate, but over the last 8 years, it's been 1.4. I mean, the very worst year under Bill Clinton, the worst growth year under the 8 years under Bill Clinton, is still better under the best year under Barack Obama. So we've got to get growth back, and getting growth and more revenue into this country means more jobs, makes us able to deal with more of our problems, and we'll be more prosperous in the future.
I keep hearing the president say, and I hear some members of Congress saying, that this is not going to be a tax break for the wealthy and the 1%. Let's face it, they're paying the taxes. They're paying the bulk of the taxes in this country. How do you do that without giving them a tax break?
Well, I think overall you make people able to keep more of what they earn and invest more of what they earn. That's where you grow. So I don't sit out to write something that says one person wins and one person loses. I sit out to write a plan that's competitive, that makes America competitive against the rest of the world. That is what I want to see. And at the end of the day, there'll be big winners and there'll be people that don't win as much. But it will be, at the end, pro-growth, more jobs, less simplicity, so you could fill it out on just a postcard, You want to keep a home deduction. You want to keep charitable deduction. But if you want to lower the rates, why don't you lower the loopholes? And I think that's fair for everybody. If you create a fair tax code, I think everybody will accept whoever wins and loses in it.
All right, let's talk North Korea a little bit, because some are saying that they don't think the sanctions are going to work against North Korea, that they're going to go ahead and do whatever they want to do over there. What do you think the president is willing to do?
Well, the president has to leave everything on the table. The problem of what we're dealing with today is the individual, Kim Jong-un, is unstable. You watch, he kills his own family members. He's destroying his own country. I mean, he takes all the money for missile defense. There's people malnourished inside their country and others. It is building a coalition. The president has moved China to help more. China probably has more input because they're a neighbor within there. You keep military options on the table. You let the sanctions work, so he begins to feel it. He's lashing out because the sanctions are beginning to work. Well, those will multiply over time. And then you build a coalition all around with Russia and everybody else, and you bring them to the table to stop it. But you also keep the option on the table because this man is so unstable that you've got to make sure this does not grow. Because not only with them having this type of weaponry, he would sell it to other players around the world. And think of what just happened in London today, that individual. And then when you talk about border security, we would not want to have somebody have a suitcase bomb coming across our border that's not secure. So there's so many reasons why we have to deal with this issue. This is probably one of the most tenuous and one of the most concerning issues we have before us right now.
The State Assembly this morning passed the sanctuary state legislation. What are your thoughts on that?
It's wrong. Shows out of balance for California. That California wants to say and take the issue away from it. If you remember back in the day, if you wanted to be able to have highway funding, they said you had to keep your drinking age at 21. So those that wanted to keep it at 18 and not follow the federal law, that's fine, but you can't get federal money. Now they want to ignore federal law, but say you still have to provide money to me. Well, why doesn't the Kern County Board of Supervisors then go and say, well, we don't have to abide by the Endangered Species Act? Why? Because that would be insane. Because we are we are ruled by law. It is a basis of what we guide ourselves on. We're civilized in that basis. But California continues to stretch beyond, and I think that's an action of one party having 2/3 in all bases where they're going beyond what common sense is. And I think that's bad for the state, and it's bad for our future.
Very good.
All right. Congressman, thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank
For
you.
your time. All right, thank you. And we'll be right back.